England could, I don't know, do you reckon maybe that's one of the reasons as well England don't want to lose Scotland, that they couldn't afford to lose us because we're their slaves?
I think England could probably manage on its own. Well, certainly the southeast anyway. There is another issue at play.
Yeah, it's only because they've got the oil backed them up, but mate, if it wasn't for that bloody oil, they'd be sitting there in the fucking Todd, the City of London.
Well, I think the City of London don't really care whether there's oil or not. If there's something that they can dream up and flog it to the rest of the world, they will. I mean, if they could sell sand to Arabia, they would.
Listen, if they could commodify shite, it would be fucking floating on the London stock market. There'd be barrel loads of shite bobbling up and down the fucking Thames and out, and there'd be spivs fucking buying and selling it. £10, £15, £30 a bag of shite. Get your shite now. If they could openly commodify shite, these bastards, they would, Jonathan.
You just described carbon trading.
That's it, mate. They commodify absolute shite. Actually, I described the whole of the capitalist system in a way. Everything that's traded on the fucking stock market is just fucking cause of shite. I mean, that's what they turned the whole fucking shooting match for the housing economy. I mean, they and they sold them to pension funds and other fucking markets, you know, and these fucking derivatives. I mean, but if you look what they did, they packaged at the time what they were doing. You know, they called them AAA, and so there was seriously. I mean, to get a AAA status, I mean, they shouldn't have been given out to fucking mortgages anyway. It's AAA should have only for like fucking government bonds backed by the government, but you know it's never ever going to default. That the government, you know, is always going to be there to fucking back it up. But they're actually were doing it on mortgages where fucking high default and that. So, but then when they realised they could get away with it, they says, "Oh well, what we'll do, we'll start bundling all these fucking very high risk fucking mortgages in there." And then by the end up, or sorry, before they end up, they realised that hey, nobody's really checking fucking anything. And there was no more fucking AAA anything to go about, so it was just all shite. So they stopped selling the AAA mixed in with a few barrels of shite, and it was just all barrels of shite with fucking maybe one fucking bit of AAA. But and then they end up, I mean, the real coup de grace, Jonathan, is they were actually trading thin air. I mean, they were trading. I mean, these derivatives are just they're nothing, mate. There's nothing there backing it. I mean, the whole thing is an illusion, Jonathan, as you know, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you say something interesting there. How would Scotland pull out of the pound then? How would it be done then? How can we, an undemocratic system, an undemocratic banking regime, a private institution, how would Scotland, would it be to set up its own? I mean, would you think Scotland...
Well, Scotland has options. Option one is join the euro, which is out of the question. Worth less than chocolate coins, or it could create its own currency, a sort of Scottish pound that is outside the sterling zone, but sort of pegged to sterling or some other currency. And then there's the third option, the more radical option, which is to make it to create a cryptocurrency or adopt an existing cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin. And Bitcoin or a currency like it would probably be a better option because there can only ever be 21 billion Bitcoins in existence at any one time. You can't artificially create Bitcoin like you can with regular fiat currency, and it's all electronic. You could have tokens, I suppose, that you could exchange for another currency, but the pound is not the pound is not the answer, because even before the financial crisis, over the 300 odd years it had been in existence, it had lost 99% of its value, and it's worth even less now. It's almost monopoly money.
just checking something out here. And I mean, I've always suggested that is a way forward. That if we were to develop our own currency, we can call it whatever we want. And now we've always said, like pay point to call it. I think it's got a different name now.
Tin coin. As in tinfoil hat, the coin.
And yeah, I mean,
we could have a picture of Mike Graham's face on it.
The technology's been there since way back in that time. We've always had that technology. Now the cryptocurrency, as it's called, the Bitcoin, then it proves that it can be done. So Scotland, I mean, to be a new country and a progressive country and a beacon of light to the rest of the world, we could turn round, nationalise our oil, say, look, we're not allowing big companies to rule and to take our oil. We're going to take it back, and instantly, I mean, the revenues we would get from that oil, nationalise the whisky, so these two commodities belong back to the country, right? So every single penny belongs back to us from the oil and the whisky. We then start that slush fund of what the Norwegians have got, where we've got over 100,000.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Yeah.
Well, the Sovereign Wealth Fund is an excellent idea, and it's one that should have been adopted when North Sea oil was discovered. As for the nationalisation of whisky, well, something similar happened in Carlisle towards the end of the First World War, and that wasn't exactly a success story. Do you really want politicians controlling the oil and the whisky export industry? Politicians are good for nothing.
No, I know. But how does Scotland then loosen its grip on these leeches politicians who are no more than puppets for big business? How does Scotland free itself of the yoke? Once we've got independence, how do we do that?
Well, first of all, salmon is not offering real independence, whatever way you cut it. Well, Scotland will either be a province of the EU, which would be even worse than being a province of Westminster, or it'll be outside the EU, but it'll be a dominion of England. Because you mustn't forget, Canada and Australia, although they are nominally independent, in reality they are dominions. The Queen is head of state. The Queen can reject laws that are given to her to give her assent to, or the Governor General. The Queen can dismiss Parliament. We've seen that in Australia and Canada, that if the Queen doesn't like something you do, she'll sack the government via the Governor General. And that could happen in Scotland. And that was one of the reasons why in the Republic, the country, after 10 or 20 years, passed the Republic of Ireland Act, because they didn't want the Queen, or the King at that time, to have the final say on laws within the Irish Free State.
Indeed. So, asking you another question on, I mean, you don't think it's going to go to independence for Scotland. Do you think that Scotland could fracture in any way? Like, that there'll be so many people disenfranchised with the status quo. Do you think that Scotland, that these people, do you think they will get another chance? Do you think this is a one and only chance in a lifetime? And do you think that, as I'm finding now, that a lot of the people who are for it might not take it too well, and there might be not problems in the street? I'm not suggesting anything stupid as that, but I'm just saying that there'll be a lot of people really resentful of what has happened. I
think the problem is, if Scotland doesn't vote yes, it'll sink with the rest of the UK into financial oblivion. It really will. and I can actually see Westminster exploiting a no vote to their favour by deciding to stoke up religious tensions. Because if Protestants and Catholics in Scotland are at each other's throats, they'll be less likely to challenge English overlordship because they're too busy fighting each other. It's the classic divide and conquer technique. What will happen is, if there's a no vote, after a while they'll give Scotland Devo Max, but they'll make sure to stoke up the religious tensions.
I hear what you're saying.
And the oil is virtually run out anyway. It's been bled dry by Westminster.
Yeah, well, I know. They've stopped doing a lot of development, but they've still got a good few years left in it to get something out of it. And do you think that is going to be a stumbling point? Because if it was to be, Scotland to vote independence, how would they sort the division of that? I mean, you spoke about the pound, but how would you sort the division of who gets the fucking oil?
Well, I have a feeling that the settlement that Scotland will be offered in the event of independence will be similar to that the Irish were given before the creation of the Free State, i.e. one that grants the UK pretty much all the prize stuff, and what's left, the rump of it, will be left to the independent state.
And so
I think it'll be a pretty one-sided agreement.
And then how would that go then? Because if Alex Salmond would be stupid enough to accept it, then he'd be signing his own, not his death warrant, but his death warrant as a politician. It wouldn't be anything as bad as that, I would imagine, but it wouldn't. I mean,
Salmond will try. Well, Salmond will try and spin it to his own advantage by claiming that Westminster are sore losers and greedy, and they don't respect Scotland. And if there are any problems in an independent Scotland or a semi-independent Scotland or EU province of Scotland, Salmond will try and deflect the blame onto other people. Oh, it's Labour's fault. Oh, it's Westminster's fault. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Anything but to divert attention away from himself. I think we could, though, see an ironic paradox where if Scotland does go independent, in the following year's election, the SNP could be kicked out, and we could have a Labour government in an independent Scotland.
And so if Scotland was to be some sort of... say we just all started walking about with rags on our head like tea towels, and we were all like billionaires, Arabs, would you want to emigrate up to rich Scotland? We're all here living the dream with big Ferraris, Testarossas, Countashes, everything. Would you come up and try to get some of this, some free prescriptions, some free bus passes and a free motor? Would you come up to Scotland and milk it with us? Would you live the dream?
Oh yeah, I'd love to live in a relatively independent Scotland. I would.
Relatively independent?
Yeah, well, relative in the sense that it's not really independent because of Salmond trying to get EU membership and Westminster and the Bank of England controlling the currency. And we would still have nuclear bases in Scotland. Even in an independent Scotland, there would still be English nuclear bases. If you don't believe me, look at the Crimea and the Ukraine. Russia has a naval base in the Ukraine, even after the breakup of the Soviet Union.
So basically what we've got is, we're just, we've got two bald men fighting